Welcome. I'm just very excited to share all these things with you. So today the focus is going to be on why stop. And the funny thing about why stop is every time a few people reached out to me and we were having a chat over the phone as well. And everybody is asking me, stop what? Right? Are you going to talk about suicide? Are you going to talk about stopping life? So, that's the question, right? That's what I'm going to answer as well. Let's take a look. So, when I mean stop doing what? Am I talking about eating, drinking, sleeping, driving, the rat race, doing, caring, giving, taking, running, fighting, effing, literally, figuratively, both, getting effed, hurting, learning, working, speaking, playing, acting, crying, laughing, cooking, killing, creating, singing, living, etc., etc., etc. So the question is, what am I talking about? Because I was even having a chat with my dad, and the moment I said this, the first thought that came to him was, we can't stop, right? We can't. Right? And it is true when you really think about our lives. It's this circle. If anybody has watched Rudy Manusco's Circle of Life or Circle of Love, you know that we are all entangled in this continuous circle. So what I want to make very clear at the beginning of this very short 15-20 minute piece of live content is, I'm not talking about any of these. I'm not talking about stopping any of these, but I am talking about, and let me get to that last point, living. Right now, even with Sushant's matter, or any suicide for that matter, if you decide to take your life, it means that your life isn't precious to you, and that is the ultimate question. So can we stop living? No, no way. Right? No matter what happens, absolutely not. Nobody is going to stop that. Then what do I mean when I say we should stop? What I'm talking about is, we should stop to think. That's the whole idea, the whole game. Right? We should stop to just use our brains. Technically, just use the brain. That God or somebody, evolution, Darwinian theory, either way, right? Whatever you believe, you have been given a brain. The whole idea is to stop and think. Now that brings us to the next question. Now, if it's about stopping and thinking, when I look around, right? When I look around now, I move around a lot. I travel a bit. I talk to different age groups, from little students. I mean, grade 7, 8 to like senior managers, senior corporate managers. I talk to this entire breadth of demographies. And when I just generally look around, from a corporate angle, from a personal angle, from a Sri Lankan community angle, the idea is, I see that massive potential in this country, more so in this country, probably one reason why this country has remained a third world country. I just genuinely see that there is massive potential going to waste, which is sad. Time is getting wasted. I remember when I was in Colombo, the time of commute, right? The time it takes to commute, especially before COVID, and I'm talking about 2015, 16, 17, 18. Sometimes we spend hours and hours on the road, but okay, that's a practical issue. And that is something that we all have to deal with. But other than that, when you think about the amount of time that we choose deliberately to waste, it's sad. So time, and the thing about time, I probably talk about this a lot, but the thing about time is, it's the one resource we cannot get back. Right? I think even Mother Nature, even if we cut all the trees in the world, Mother Nature is not that cruel to say, look, if you plant more new seeds, we'll give you back. But time is not something like that. You cannot take it back. It doesn't move back. You cannot go back in time. So wasting time is a big issue. And I'm not, don't take me wrong here, right? I wasted a lot of time. Because I wasted a lot of time and I'm at this stage in my life, for me, each minute is so precious. I just realize how what potential time has. And I want everybody, right? Everybody to realize that. And the environment is getting destroyed. Now, I just saw that Zac Efron is doing a documentary with Netflix, which is brilliant because all of his fans now will also, read up and follow and just be more conscious about the environment. It's just that if you take Sri Lanka, even single-use plastic is making a major comeback in the country. Not only in the country, but around the globe because of various COVID-19 related dynamics. So, right, the environment is getting destroyed. Do we want that? No, we don't. And creativity, right? This idea of creativity is thrown in the dump. Now, when you take now John Keel's X, right? Yesterday there was a post about how John Keel's X was set up and all that. MAS, some of these conglomerates have set up innovation centers. But if you think about the products that they've promoted, it's only when it's commercially viable and it's only when their client has a commercial use. But we need to go beyond that. I am sorry to say this, but it is partially or to a larger extent the truth, because we don't really have an innovation culture here. We don't have an extensive research culture. So creativity is thrown in the dump. The idea of good and nice, fundamental human nature of being good and being nice and being kind is being challenged. People are finding the most creative ways to be, a hindrance to just F around with people's lives. And that's crazy. And when I think about why as a society we remain an underdeveloped nation, why we can't get above that tier, one of the fundamental reasons is that these values of being good and nice and kind, these are being challenged. And the other thing is, I see that fear and emotion is controlling people. And I'm saying this because it's coming from a very personal place. Because I have been challenged, I have been controlled, I have been used by my fear and by my emotion. I have been a slave to my fears and my emotions, special emotions, because I have this nature of being very intense and that can control me. And it took me a lot of experiences, a lot of years of dealing with it, testing it out, understanding myself, spending time with myself, and just grinding to really understand the scope and breadth of my emotion and my fear. Yeah, and obviously I had an edge because Kingswood, my school, had a lot to do with, because by the time I was coming out of school, I had dealt with a lot of these issues. So in terms of career, I was always a few steps. I had that edge. Another issue I see is that the wrong or the incomplete or advices that have ulterior motives. People give a lot of these kind of advices. People assume that they know everything, and trust me, I don't know everything. You don't know everything. Nobody knows everything, which is why we need a collaborative community so that everybody shares what each other knows. But the problem is there is always these kind of situations where, especially because I work with a lot of young students, I realize that students are being given the wrong or the partial half of the advice. Not even students, also parents, because if the parents are from a middle income setting, then it means that they don't know the right people, or they might even be afraid to approach the right people. In that case, if these kind of advices are given, it can really mess with the entire life of the child. Look at what's happening during COVID and how digital has taken over, and the disparity between some students having the access and some students not. And the major point is that people, you, me, all of us, we seem to be trapped in an endless cycle. And we need to break from this cycle. It's those who break apart from that cycle. Those are the people. And we are a small community. We are a 20 million nation. All of us can do that. We can do that. We can be the best nation on earth. And I also see that families are being torn apart. Obviously, you know that suicide rates are very high in Sri Lanka. You know that divorce rates are absolutely high in Sri Lanka. We know that there are a lot of issues, right? I'm just quoting some basic things that are happening around me, around families, around my neighborhoods, here, there in Colombo, right? You see siblings fight. So when that fundamental values are missing, these things we see, and obviously the lack of values. So in such a setting, in such a setting, don't we need some fixes? And one of those fixes is what I'm pitching to you today, is that each and all of us, right? Each and every person, we are all human beings. We are all fundamentally good. There is not, I don't believe that any person is bad. I genuinely believe that every single human being is internally a good person. If that is the case, we can fix this. And to fix it, we need to stop and think. And the best chance we got to stop and think is COVID-19. And the funny thing, right? So March, April, May. So during May, I was hearing a lot about post-COVID-19. I've realized that, I've realized this. There's so much of positivity going around, and people are talking about change. But slowly, if you look at June, if you look at this month, I was in Colombo and I was going all around. And from the things that I saw, you realize that people are waiting to just fall back to that cycle. And 1 month, and the hook is there. So the bait just has to be taken. So however much there are webinars on the internet, corporate webinars, all kinds of webinars, right? However much they pitch this idea of that we are new, we are different, in one way or form, they try to trap. I mean, somebody is doing this, but you see a lot of people going back to that same cycle. And that is okay, because end of the day, life is a cycle. But the problem is if you don't use this opportunity to make those little changes that you should have and could have made. Okay. And that brings me to the question. Now, I've been telling you to stop and think. Then probably you're asking me, think about what? What, AZB? What are you asking us to think about? Right? That's probably the question. Let me try to answer. These are all questions I have asked from myself, definitely over the years, and a lot over the past 3-4 months. Who am I? What am I? What am I? Right? Who am I and what am I? There's a massive answer there. Even when an intern or when a recruitment happens, right? I've worked with a lot of interns, okay, at the junior level or the junior executive level. When I recruit people or when I'm sitting in interview boards, I'm asking them, who are you? What are you? And that is a major question that people struggle with. And that is not even the classic answer here. When you are having this conversation with yourself, there's a massive story there. It's very important to understand who you are and what you are. Another question, what can I do and what can't I do? There are things you're good at and there are things you're not good at. It's important to figure those out. You see that people go their entire life doing things that they are not really good at, while being sad and disappointed about the fact that they think they are good at something, but they haven't had the chance to test it out. I ask why. And then there'll be contextual scenarios to say, look, we are coming from a different place, we have different issues, etc., etc. But that is something that needs to be addressed. What am I capable of and not? So can and cannot, capable of and not capable of. See, the key difference there is you might not be doing these things. Okay. Capability is something that you are at the moment not engaged in, but you can do it. You know you have the potential. Then my question is, why aren't you harnessing it? If you think you have the public speaking ability, if you think you're a good musician, if you think you're a good actor, you're capable. If you think you're capable, why aren't you harnessing it? That's the question. And that is something you need to think and ask yourself and figure out for yourself. What am I strong in? What am I weak in? Right? Simple SWOT analysis. This is important. What do I like and what do I dislike? Right? And not only what, the who also matters, because sometimes this is something that I personally have gone through. Sometimes you have to associate people that you don't like. Now, fundamentally, if there are ethical issues between me and another person, I don't like them. Right? I like to stay away. This is generally true, and this is something that I've continued to do. When there are ethical fights between us, I know that ethical framework is not really the way I work. Then I kind of move away. And to do that, you have to understand your framework. or else you're forced to work, or you're forced to stay, you're forced to communicate and engage with someone or something that you don't like, and that brings out a lot of negativity. And what it ultimately does is it diminishes your value. You get little by little just small and timid. It blocks you. It blocks your energy. And every day, you're waking up, you feel like contracted every day. And that is really nothing. That is not something that should happen to anybody. And that brings me to this question: who brings out the best in you? Who brings out the worst in you? And I've been thinking about this a lot lately. You should too. You should too. There are people among friends, among family, among mentors, right? Among advisors, among mutual friends. There are people who bring out the best in you. When you meet them, you smile. When you meet them, and it's not just a matter of laughing out loud and you're meeting a few friends, or it's really not a matter of just having a good time at the expense of somebody. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the best in you, bringing out the scope in you, bringing out the opportunities, that bringing out the capabilities in you, bringing out the thought process in you, helping you to think, all that. Okay. And who do I love? Who do I hate? And why? This is important. This is extremely important. Figuring out who you love, who you hate, who you don't love, who you don't hate, right? People are not perfect. We all have people that belong to each of these categories. Knowing that will allow you to be more aware of what's going on and deal with the situations, those people, in a smarter, careful, in a more neutral way. If not, emotions start controlling you. And that is something we need to avoid. Who or what wastes my time? I talked about time. We need to try and understand. I've procrastinated a lot. I'm a TV show fan. I watch a lot of movies. So in that sense, it has eaten up a lot of my time. But now I'm channeling all that energy into a different creative space. So it has somehow worked out for me. That's somebody's grace. But you have to try, and as a student especially, if you're in the age category of 15 to 30, 15, 20, 25, 30, this is the age. What you do in this age will decide the rest of your life. Whether you live or die is a different matter. So you live fully for this day. But when you live fully on the now, you need to understand that every minute is precious. So if you're having a good time, you need to have the best of times. If you're learning, you need to learn at the best capacity. That's what you need to do. We need to do. You, me, all of us. What adds value to me? What destroys my value? Now, the thing is, everybody talks about value. Now, I'm not talking about just purely life values, but your value, what is it? And you can say, look, it's not net worth. I'm not talking about Bill Gates' or Warren Buffett's net worth kind of idea. Your value, all of us have a value. But the things that we do, the way we engage with life, either can expand that value, grow that value, or destroy that value. Now, I'm hoping by this live session to help you expand your value. So, what words are coming out of my mouth? Should they? Shouldn't they? People have told me, now even my lectures, I'm not a very reserved person. So I speak honestly. And a lot of people have come and told me, look, sometimes, you got to be careful with what you say and all that. But that is temporarily. I'm not saying that everything I say is right. I mess up so much. Okay. But it's important to understand the kind of things that come out of your mouth. If you're lying a lot, that can have a very severe impact to you, right? If you're fooling around a lot, that can have a severe impact. Now, if I joke a lot, right? And there have been certain negative applications, negative, kind of vibes that have come back to me, which I've had to work a lot and work hard to address, because I try to, kind of play the funny guy all the time. But inside, there's a lot of serious shit that's going on in my head. So sometimes I don't show it. And that can work out negatively. So regardless, it's something subjective. It's about you. So in that sense, What words are coming out of your mouth? Should they? Shouldn't they? Right? What mistakes am I repeating? Mistakes are fine. Everybody knows this. I don't need to tell you this. Learning by mistakes is the best way of learning. Okay, so fail first, fail fast, fail forward. Fail first, fail fast, fail forward. Do that. Fail as much as you can. Right? I had invested 1 million in a business and I had lost all of it. I had lost the entire money that I had saved over a amount of 5 years. I'll tell you that story someday. But that was my entrepreneurship lesson, right? I mean, just messed up. I was kind of bankrupt on a personal level. Okay, so fail fast, fail forward, and that was I was very young. Do I understand my position of whatever context you're operating in? What skills do I need? Now, I help a lot of students with the language skill. The reason why I do my session and content in English is because students have told me that the English I speak is helpful. That if they focus and if they pay attention, they actually learn things. And I'm genuinely hoping, and I try to, and it adds value to me also because I also try to do a better job, and I try to use the language more creatively in a simple setting. So if you feel that you lack certain skills, you need to understand what skills they are and add them. I have added so many skills over the past few months to my base. It's really not about doing a course and getting a certificate. It's not about that. And it's also not about specializing in one skill. In the modern world, something that I notice is specializing is not really the game. It's that you need to be some sort of, right, to a certain extent, a jack of all trades also. You need to know the game, right? You need to be digital. You need to be able to do social media marketing. You need to be able to handle softwares, office package. You need to be able to handle the language. All these things are important. You need to be able to work with as a professional. You need to be able to speak, communicate. So, a lot of skills are required today. Do I get how money works? Now, this is something that is very important and I had completely misunderstood in my young life. I wasted a lot of money, right? And I'm barely starting to speak about it. There is an entire, personal finance session that is being done by me. You'll hear soon. It'll go public very soon. Do you get how money works? If you are a young person, there are so many things in terms of financial literacy you should know that I wish that people taught our students in school, right? It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor. You need to understand the dynamics of money, how money moves, how money is created. It really is important. Without the financial literacy, we can't really do much. We will still be the same person even 10 years or 20 years down the line. I see this a lot. Need to address that. What can I learn myself? What are the things that I need the help from others? These are two questions because, I talk about this self-learning, right? You can learn a lot of things by yourself. You don't need others' help. Everything that you need is right there at your fingertips, in your phone, in your laptop, through the internet. It's right there. Who should I go to advice for? Who should be my mentor? That's why I asked you to think about who really love you, because you need to surround yourself with the right kind of people. Look, life isn't very rosy, no. So you will definitely, if you're an independent person, if you're someone who is engaging with the community, you're working around, you're juggling things, you're working with people and all that, you will definitely have people who wants to F you over. Okay. Literally, not literally, but figuratively, right? Or people who wants to F with you, right? Again, literally, figuratively, all that. But this is a reality of life that we need to understand. That is society. If you don't know this, you wouldn't know until they come and do this and go. It has happened to me. I have been naive in my life. There were times when I was listening to some people I shouldn't have listened to. Right? But overall, the fundamental idea is that everybody is good. So thankfully, even today, when I look back at all the people I had surrounded myself with, every single person has helped me move forward. And that is what you need to drive. So these are things that you need to ask yourself by stopping. If you don't stop, you can't really think about these things. Who cares, who doesn't? And that brings me to this beautiful quote: when you're 20, you care what everyone thinks, because you're posting Instagram pictures, you're posting videos, and you're looking at, the reception for that, because you're giving a shit about what everybody else thinks about you. When you're 40, you stop caring what everyone thinks. At the age 40, you take Jack Ma, you take any investor, entrepreneur at that age, you take Elon Musk, who's in that range, they really don't give a shit about what anybody thinks. When you're 60, you realize no one was ever thinking about you in the first place. So my question is this: if we know that, if Churchill already said it, if you're 20, why can't you be in that space? Why can't you realize that nobody was ever thinking about you in the first place except those who genuinely care about you? If you realize that you have unlimited potential, because you can do whatever you want in the right way, and just achieve so much. Basically, what I'm talking about is self-awareness. I'm not pitching to you selfishness. I'm not pitching to you self-absorbed idea, being so self-absorbed. I'm not telling you, I'm not really talking about self-love. I am talking about love, but this whole idea of self-love, there's a portion of it, but the key idea is self-awareness. It's about knowing yourself and what is surrounding you, your environment. Okay, and I've tested it out so much. So I want to quickly, right, this is going a little longer than I planned, give you 3 examples. One is from my college days. Okay, right, there is so much, and I love that I have proof of everything. It's amazing, guys. It's amazing how, when you look back. So this is me, this is me this is me in the Kingswood prize giving in 2009, right? 211 is my number. So I mean, I was one of the most senior scouts, right? I have gone to the Brownsea Island in the World Centenary celebrations, right? In 2007, when scouting celebrated 100 years, I was one among the 300 scouts in the entire world. I have never spoken about this. I'm doing it today. I'm one of the few scouts, probably in Sri Lanka, to have gone to that island where scouting started. Okay. Now, by the latter part of my journey, something bad happened. Okay. Again, because I'm naive, right? Because of my naivety, which is why I said Kingswood has taught me so much. And I remember after this incident, right? These few weeks were going by. I remember the day I made the choice, right, to change my route. I remember coming home and crying. I was crying because I had dedicated my life to a certain idea and it didn't work out. Just like life, I understood the reality of it. So that is one moment in my life, one moment I remember stopping and thinking rather than just, continuously going that cycle. I stopped and thought and I decided something. And that led to the beginning of something massive. Something massive. I know that some of you are here with me. You all have supported. I mean, Kingswood has done that. This is one snap I am so proud of, right? All these students were given the opportunity, a platform to come and perform and showcase their talents. And most of them realized that they had a talent only when we gave this opportunity, right? And we were able to acquire the classroom. We did so much. Okay, you can see as a senior, this is from the debate competition, right? We just did so much. And why and how I was able to do that was because I came home and I had to stop and I thought and I decided. If I had not stopped, I would have still been entangled in that same circle. Okay, so I'm so grateful. And that is something from my college days where I stopped and thought and something really good came out of it. Another example from my personal life, right? So when you take the personal life, I'm sure many of you will agree with this. We all have a moment like this. I probably Nazmi is watching this and Okay, so it happens, right? So you get the point. So something like this happened to me in my personal life. And the point is that the point is when these things happen, right? Now, even if it happens, we see news about suicide. We see news about people who are unable to handle. We see a lot of sad news about how depression is being caused. It's so sad. The idea is that self-awareness, because if you understand yourself, you know that your life, that this is a small part of your life. There's so much. And I remember that incident happened, and I was chasing, right? I was chasing whoever that was, and I just couldn't, stop. And then it took me some time, and finally there came a moment when I stopped. And I stopped, and I took a turn for another direction. I remember the day I stopped. I remember who was there when I stopped. I remember who was not there when I stopped. I remember the incident, right? These are very powerful moment in my personal life. So when tragedies happen, we have to stop and take a step back and reflect and decide what to do. Okay. And the third one is from my career. Look, this is something very simple. There are high pressure. Like I've been working in very high pressure roles, right? Pulling 16 hours, 17 hours, 18-hour roles. When I was doing these jobs, I come to work, right? I'm working 8:30. I get to work, let's say, right? This is after I pulled the all-nighter. I leave office at 1 a.m., all that. So I come early morning, I'm so tired. And then I come and I grind. The moment I come, there are so many meetings, so many problems, so many issues, and everything feels like it's on my head. Because for me, when I work is serious. And then that happens. But after break, you take that moment to go and pray during that lunchtime. And that moment where you're alone with yourself and you've stopped, right? That's on a daily moment, right? On your daily cycle, you've stopped and you're thinking, right? You're doing your prayers. You realize that life is a much bigger thing out there. So then when you come back to office after that experience, you're revitalized. You're happy again. You feel like you can take on anything. You feel like you're coming back fresh to the office. That's a daily cycle. So in fact, something that when I was working with Anuja Veerasinghe madam, someone who I love and respect so much. So she does a lot of work on the meditation side, and the Anapanasati Bhavana, all these meditation techniques that we as Sri Lankans have inherited. If we use these things very effectively, we can develop our self-awareness. We can use that as a moment to stop and think. And that moment will change the course of our life. And that brings me to the realizations. Guys, every time I stopped, something good happened. Something better always came along when I stopped and thought. It awakened my creative thought, and all of you are amazingly creative. If you're a student watching this, if you're one of my kids, one of my students who are watching this, no kids, you have a lot of creativity in your mind. If you don't tap into that, we will all just be trapped in the same thing that we are doing. I'm probably saying things that are unpopular. I don't know. I don't know, but I don't care. I know this is good, right? Think about your creative space. How creative can you be? It could be in writing, dancing, singing, whatever, right? You understand what's going on. You understand the bigger picture when you stop and think, or you react. Now, when I get mad, I try not to react immediately, except for those who are very close to me. Because then, but in the corporate sense or in a professional setting, what I try to do is, now recently I messed up. There was an incident. Recently I messed up, but most of the time, what I do is I sleep it off. I come home, I sleep it off. The next day morning, I try to see how I feel. Because I allow myself to stop and think what's really going on. You understand the gaps in your knowledge and your experience, because we cannot know everything. We are not the best in everything. So understanding the gap is important, because if you don't understand the gap, you don't know what to fill it with. If you think there is no gap, you're not trying to fill it. Now, I was reading I mean, we are going through an exam, and trust me, I'm reading commercial law. It's crazy. And I just got this book and I'm starting to read it. And I've read a few pages and it's so bloody interesting. I just learned what arbitration is. It's crazy. And that space is a different kind of element, something that definitely helps business. And value is added. Every time I stopped and thought and then moved ahead, value was added not only to myself, but also to all the others who are engaging with me, who are working with me. So it was just amazing, right? This is why I'm telling you, I'll show you another powerful clip that you like. I believe that this scene, whoever wrote this scene, right, during the screenplay or during the writing process, this dialogue, who knows your worth? Those of them who genuinely, truly love you. And you can find those people because there are those people. You need to surround yourself with them. They might not be with you, right? They might not be at arm's distance. They might be sometimes 1,000 miles away. I have a friend like that who is about 1,000 miles away. Another bunch of friends who are 100 kilometers away. It's not physical distance. It's the idea that you surround yourself with those who genuinely love you. They will elevate you and you will elevate them. And as a community, we should all build a community that love each other. The fellow human being, we genuinely should love everybody else. And then we will all help each other. When I walk into the class, there is not a single student who I don't love. I love every single student of mine. And I know that all my students love me. Okay. So my favorite is when I stopped and changed, something always changed, right? When I stopped and thought and then moved ahead, something always definitely changed. So this is what I'm asking you to do. The best time to stop and think is when life is really, really effed up. Okay. If your life, if at this moment you're thinking, life is really shitty and you're trying to chase someone else's process, it's time to stop and think for yourself. Ask all those questions. Do the experiment, do the research. The internet is there. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everybody has announced that they are permanently allowing their workers to work from home. If they are doing that, there might be jobs for you. Who knows? There are. Google, permanently working from home. But if you have the right skills, you can get it. Because now there is no boundary. They're just looking for the right people. Okay. So if your life is really shitty and really effed up, it's a good time to stop and think the way I am asking you to do. And when your life is really, really working out, right? When you're at your best, when you're at your peak, you talk to Richard Branson, you talk to Jack Ma, you talk to Bill Gates, Elon Musk. This is where they are. And that is when they really, really think. If you look at the Bill Gates' documentary, he takes 5 days off of everything else, completely silent with his books and himself. He takes that time. If you look at major corporations in the world, they have management retreats. So when life is really, really good, you need to be able to think. And obviously, in small daily doses. Right? Your prayers, your meditation time, the time that you spend with yourself, ensure that you stop and think. So technically, all I'm inviting you to do is, this was my live test. There are several things that are happening and I'm basically inviting you to take a moment for yourself, stop and think for what you are, what you're capable of, and truly understand who you are. If you haven't asked all those questions, there's so much about you that you can understand. You need to test yourself. You need to grind and just engage with yourself and just learn who you are, because nobody else is going to do that for you. This is the thought that I wanted to leave with you because it has really worked out for me. Be happy. Make sure that you stop and think. Good luck.